So what I'd like to do now, if I may, is to just introduce the participants and the panel members that we have here. So firstly, my name's Simon Whitaker. I'm from a company called Vertical Structure. I'm currently the chair of the NI Cyber Cluster, and I work in, I run Vertical Structure in Belfast. We work with lots of different organizations in the cyber world, doing everything from security and penetration testing to training, to assisting with certifications and helping organizations feel and be more secure. On our panel today, we have, I'm going to start with Jackie Fox, who is Managing Director from the Accenture Ireland Security Lead, Vice Chair of Cyber Ireland, and is also somebody who I was privileged enough to meet a couple of years ago when I was on a cyber security exchange visit to the United States. At which Jackie and I were lucky enough to go to various places, including the Pentagon, FBI headquarters, and learn how the organizations over there are doing cybersecurity and how they work together. So Jackie, thank you so much for coming along today. I'm going to ask you all for a little bit of a first question in a minute, and I'll introduce you properly then. We've also got with us Claire Griffin, who's from Enterprise Europe Network Northern Ireland. Claire is the UK national contact point for SMEs in Horizon 2020. And we also have Debbie Vance, again from the Enterprise Europe Network Northern Ireland. So again, thank you very much for joining us. From the Department for International Trade, we've got Jeff Peel, and you'll see Jeff in the blue shirt at the very top up there. Jeff is sector specialist in technology investment. We also have Michael Powell. I don't think we can see Michael's webcam at the moment, but Michael is joining us actually from the States, and is the cyber representative to North America. And finally, we have Judith, last but obviously not least, is Judith Miller, who is Business Development Manager at ECIT in Belfast, the Centre for Secure Information Technologies at Queen's, and is also one of the key people in NI Cyber, who's been integral in getting our organisation set up and running. You know, I'm personally very grateful to her for everything that she's done in getting NI Cyber set up. So let's set the scene. Where are we? We're a few weeks into this now, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. So from a negative point of view, as it were, or a kind of a downside of things, we've seen figures of approximately 600 companies furloughing staff. Approximately 32,000 employees in Northern Ireland have been furloughed. We did obviously very basic maths, working out anywhere from kind of 70 to 80 to 90 million pounds a month being spent on those schemes, which is going to be obviously very interesting. We have seen some companies changing their payment terms for suppliers with immediate effect. So we, you know, in our organisation, we've had suppliers contacting us saying that they are changing their payment terms from 30 to 90 days, which has an impact on cash flow for all of us. You know, if that's what's happening. We've seen work postponed. We've had reports from our clients of having work postponed, and you know, that's something that we've been all dealing with, I'm sure. But conversely, there are some organizations who are succeeding. So some organizations succeeding in a very large way. Some people have been assisting with the incident response. Some people who have been assisting with securing organizations working remotely. We've also got a lot of companies who already have investment. So we've got some clients, some cluster members who have already received their investment. They already have their money in from various clients, from various funders, and therefore they have a runway. They have 2 years of salaries, or they have these in place. So actually their impact is going to be a lot less than in many cases. But what I thought we'd start with doing is, by discussing the changes we've seen in the industry over the last couple of months. And I'm going to turn first to Jackie. Jackie, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions with one of your many different hats on.
Sure.
Firstly, as Vice Chair of Cyber Ireland, you have a role to help bring together industry, academia and government to represent the needs of the cybersecurity ecosystem in Ireland. What's been the view from your members?
Okay, thanks very much for having me here today. I'm delighted Cyber Ireland and Accenture have an opportunity to talk to yourselves, and the view is I suppose quite varied really. From point of view of our membership, we have membership obviously from, academia, government and industry. And I suppose academia have had a lot of very immediate challenges thrown at them in relation to their student body and how they can interact with them. And the most immediate thing is how are they going to examine them? And I think they're also kind of dealing with the challenges around how are they going to take in next year's first year intake, and when are they going to be able to do that, and what's college going to be like for people going forward. So I think in a climate where we're trying to increase the number of cybersecurity courses that are available to people, this is obviously going to be a challenge for us. And I think people have to look at new ways of providing those. And there's an obvious kind of answer there in the virtual piece. But are there things that you just can't compensate for virtually about relationships and building up those sort of things with people? So I think the academic sector is in some ways fortunate that they already do have a lot of mixed media delivery for courses, but I think this is certainly a challenge for our academic members. From a government perspective, the members we have in Cyber Ireland, obviously they've been all hands to the pump, looking at how they're supporting lots of different initiatives. And from a cyber perspective, definitely there's been a view of making sure that they're prepared for different eventualities that might occur over the coming weeks, months, maybe / years. Like we don't know kind of what new normal and new normal are going to turn out to be. And then from an industry perspective, clearly we've got a vast variety of people. We've got, kind of multinational kind of organizations, and then we have people in startup situations who are being funded, or who, researchers are trying to develop something. So I think they have a very different sets of challenges. One thing that's very key is that our members have pretty much without exception come to us saying they want to help, and they want to do their bit for society and assist. So we've been trying to link up different people to say how they could assist each other, and ask people to hold up their hands for the type of help that they might need. And some of our members have held up their hands and said we needed help, and others have come forward and said yes, we'd actually like to help you. So a lot of that is around the incident response space actually at the moment, and we've seen a lot of assistance being requested for working from home as well. So Cyber Ireland have been very busy over this period actually. Yes.
Brilliant. That's really interesting, Jackie. Thank you very much. Secondly, if I may, with your Accenture hat on, do you see something very similar? I mean, you probably work with some very large organisations. They must be seeing some interesting things changing as well.
Yeah, from a point of view of kind of large organizations, I think they got hit quite quickly with this working from home challenge. Like some organizations, like let's say an Accenture, pretty much most of our people effectively may as well work from home, because we were working in other people's offices. So we had a lot of infrastructure in place, a lot of controls in place around remote access into the Accenture corporate network. A lot of organizations weren't so fortunate, so they had to stand things up really quickly. And from a security perspective, we were kind of giving a lot of assistance or a lot of advice in relation to how that could be done securely. So that was a very busy period for us. And also we had a lot of call out from our clients to say, we want to speak to other clients to see what they're doing or how they're doing it. I think there were a lot of quite early initial challenges in relation to collaboration platforms, around bandwidth, security. So we were trying to help people negotiate through that. And, typically like an organization like ourselves, like we'd have very formal statements of work in place, and we're trying to help you with that. Whereas in a situation like this, like a lot of that kind of went out the window for like a few days, because we really just wanted to help people and make sure that they were safe in doing what they were doing and facilitating other types of business that they were doing. So that was a bit unusual, that kind of we were spending an awful lot of time doing, what we would call like pro bono work to try and assist clients. day to day, kind of, there's been a lot of work kind of across Accenture globally, trying to make sure that people feel connected, that they still have a sense of purpose. It doesn't suit everybody kind of working from their bedroom or working from their kitchen. So trying to keep our teams connected with each other has been a challenge for us. And kind of globally, we've had a lot of advice from our mothership, kind of saying these are things that work, these are things that you could do to try and help your teams feel connected. And make sure that we're supporting anybody who might have issues in relation to that. And I suppose we definitely have seen that some of the configurations about how we're working with clients has changed, when we're not physically in the office with them. And we have seen some elements of work definitely go into kind of pause, but we've actually had other things have popped up to kind of, initiation things where they've needed help, like on kind of, things that have arisen because of COVID, to assist them with that. So our teams are still very busy, fortunately, but it's quite hard to predict how that's going to look, in 6 months' time if we're still in the same position, I think.
Yeah, I think we all need the crystal ball, but the crystal ball isn't necessarily bringing us any news at the moment. So that's really interesting. Thank you very much. I mean, one of the things just to reflect on there is I heard tail, and I'm not sure how how accurate this is, just on the grapevine. There was a company, I believe it was up in Letterkenny, who had just got rid of all of their working from home in January. They'd said that they wanted everybody focusing on working from the offices and all that sort of stuff. And then obviously this hit, and they basically had to go back to the cupboard to get all the stuff they'd taken out and put it back into their infrastructure again. So it's there was a massive piece of work and undertaking required for that. Thank you, Jackie. That's really
things kind of happening, like people saying we need to get 5,000 people working from home next week. Like we've seen some amazing feats that you would have never have thought possible happen over the last few.
I think it also shows, some people have been saying, there's been a lot of this for a long time now, saying that that job can't be done from home, and I think we're proving now that quite a lot of jobs can actually be done remotely or virtually, whichever word we want to use. Thank you, Jackie. That's brilliant. I wonder if I could just move over to DIT, to Jeff and Michael for a couple of minutes here, and just ask, how have you seen the priorities of companies change over the last couple of months? What have you seen from your side?
Well, obviously, as Jackie's just been alluding to, the short-term tactical focus has been just being able to trade and getting staff sorted out. So it's been very much HR focused. I think now, though, that as we are approaching, hopefully, the sort of phased ending of lockdown, or the changing nature of lockdown, I don't think it's going to be an ending as such. It's going to be a new normal to an extent, but certainly as we're getting to the next stage, then I think the focus is increasingly on how do we get over this hump? How do we continue trading? How do we see revenue, and how do we get funded? Obviously, because we, as the technology team within DIT, deal with a large number of relatively early stage companies, obviously some of those companies may have been at a stage in their funding rounds where they've either seen funding being pulled. There's clearly a liquidity issue within the venture capital community, and I know that you had a previous session discussing funding. But funding and revenue are obviously partners in getting companies further along the runway and getting nearer to the development product and also the position where they're going to see revenue. So the focus for DIT has been in providing, and obviously in conjunction with the Treasury, providing support to companies that are facing some of these challenges. Obviously, it's not just small companies that are facing these challenges, it's large companies as well. Many large companies are furloughing staff. But I think to some extent, we are in the fortunate situation where many technology companies, and certainly many software companies, can transition fairly readily. That might require that they refocus on research and development to come up, for example, with solutions that respond to the COVID-19 crisis. And we, as a department, have been obviously working with other departments in terms of coming up with packages that could support. A case in point is Innovate UK. Innovate UK is focused obviously in research and development funding. And as part of the Chancellor's recent announcement of a package of programmes, it was included in that a £550 million allocation of funding, new funding for companies that are seeing short-term issues. And I think some of that funding could be used in terms of either reorienting or potentially supporting existing activities and getting companies productive again and refocused. A case in point, I worked with an Australian company that landed in the UK fairly recently and was going great guns, growing very fast, with an asset tracking solution for smart buildings. Now you can imagine where that one was going to go, but what they did very quickly was refocused on, given the fact that they had expertise in asset tracking, on tracking human beings through smartphones, and they were successful in selling a solution into Israel for COVID-19 tracking. Now, obviously, there's a lot of companies offering solutions in that space, but they were successful in achieving traction very rapidly and reorienting themselves very rapidly as well. Yesterday, we are in a fortunate position. The new Chief Technology Officer of Innovate UK is a Belfast man. I had a chat with him yesterday, ex-Bombardier. Mark Gillen is his name, and he was outlining the package that Innovate UK has made available, and the fact that they are reaching out overtly to the SME community to avail of those funds, and also to possibly pay out funding to companies, recognising the fact that they could be facing short-term pandemic challenges. So I would encourage companies that are members of the Cyber NI network to look at Innovate UK and some of those open calls. There is a COVID-19 response call in place currently, but there will also be an open call which would provide up to 175,000 under de minimis terms to companies across the United Kingdom. And as I say, the intention of Innovate UK is to get as much of that funding as possible to the SME community. Obviously, there's wider programs as well, like short-term loan programs and so on and so forth, but a lot of that is available via the gov.uk website, where a lot of these programs are outlined. So it's much more, and obviously some delivery through the British Business Bank as well in terms of debt to equity programs. So I think that getting across this short-term hump is certainly the focus of many of the companies that we work with. And just to explain, by the way, my focus is on tech companies that are coming into the UK and want to develop partnership networks, often with Indigenous companies. And Michael, who will obviously introduce himself now, focuses more on UK companies that are hoping to get to market. And so he and his colleagues within our defence and security organisation can support cybersecurity companies that want to get to market. And he and I have done some recent work in North America, for example. And just this morning, in fact, I co-presented with Michael's colleague for the Gulf region, Simon Hosking, who can help in that region. And we obviously we can support in other regions as well. But Michael can give you a better feel for how he can support companies that are facing some short-term challenges, getting to market and supporting the development partnerships.
Brilliant. Jeff, thank you so much for that, and thanks for the introduction there. Michael, I'm going to come back to you in a second, if I may. What I'd like to do just in the meantime is to speak to another one of our delegates from a different side. Claire and Debbie, I wonder if you could tell us from a regional development and Enterprise Europe standpoint, maybe please just choose which one of you, but from your perspective, how have things changed for you? What changes have you seen in the ecosystem over the last couple of months?
Hi, thank you very much, Simon. This is Claire. I will start first and then pass over to Debbie, if that's all right. So in the R&D ecosystem, the UK has exited the EU. And I really wanted to put across the point today that the UK remains able to participate and lead in Horizon 2020 projects. The withdrawal agreement states that we, the UK, can participate in the EU programmes financed under the 2014 to 2020 multi-annual financial framework. Apologies, that's a terrible mouthful, but MFF. and Horizon 2020 is financed underneath that current MFF. So what this really means for UK companies, Northern Ireland companies, is that any UK recipients will receive grant funding for the lifetime of the projects, including those which are scheduled to finish after the transition period. So I am here to encourage companies to continue to bid as if the UK remained a member state right until the end of the Horizon 2020 programme. There are a couple of exceptions that I want to highlight to you. So the EIC Accelerator within Horizon 2020 has a box that you tick if you want to access blended finance. Blended finance is no longer an option for the UK, so we have to be sure you're only ticking the grant only box. If you've applied and you haven't yet got an answer, the European Commission will assess your application according to the standard process and notify you of the outcome as if the UK was still a member state. You will receive funding for the lifetime of your project. Looking ahead, the UK has quite publicly stated that the priority continues in relation to research and development to be securing the best outcome for UK research and innovation, and that we maintain a mutually beneficial relationship with the EU in science and innovation. So this is part of the negotiations that are ongoing, but this is what the UK had agreed they would go into the negotiations with. So I am encouraging companies to continue to apply. Gillian has a presentation that has Debbie and my contact details on it. So I'll now pass over to Debbie, but please feel free to contact either of us post-event.
Thank you so much, Claire. Really appreciate that. Debbie, just any thoughts that you have?
With regards to thoughts on internationalisation, and as you said, Simon, companies are looking at other opportunities, and there's a lot of funding available there to help them look at these other opportunities. Our colleagues in Flanders have produced a platform to help companies promote these new opportunities that have all helping with the fight against COVID-19. So we are actually trying to get Northern Ireland companies to register on the platform and to sell their opportunities, products and solutions. It's an excellent platform. As Claire says, we'll share the facility with you, and if there's anyone that needs any help on completing a profile or a solution, come to us. At the minute, there are over 400 participants registered from all across Europe, and there are ongoing at the minute 100 meetings through the platform, and you schedule the meetings yourself through an online video conference facility, and it's been very successful. There's been various opportunities already promoted through it, and business is already happening. So that's an excellent opportunity, an excellent platform for local companies to start using it. We have a company on it at the minute, or a local company, a few local companies, but one of them is selling, obviously, the big thing is PPE equipment, and they're selling sanitizer, and they've also already communicated internationally to try and get their products out.
That's absolutely brilliant, and I know that we're going to be sharing some of the details and links. You should be able to see it in the handouts side on the right-hand side in your go-to control panel. But just to that sounds like a very, very useful site, and we'll definitely share all of those around. That's fantastic. Judith, sorry for taking so long to get to you, but Judith from ECIT and NI Cyber, like Jackie, you're here wearing a couple of different hats. Could you give us a little bit of a view from the academia side, and also maybe from the NI Cyber side, on how things have changed over the last few weeks from with both those hats on?
Certainly, thanks, Simon. Great to join the panel today and get the chance just to raise awareness of a couple of the things that are going on, and certainly some of the feedback we've had from member companies. Then, from a university perspective, first of all, there has really been a phenomenal effort right across the university, as Jackie's already mentioned, across all of academia. This year, we need to get students moving from first year into second and third, and we need to get students graduating this year. Then even looking ahead and in onboarding of new students as well for the autumn semester, and also looking ahead in terms of the landscape, I suppose, for the next number of months, potentially even much longer than that, is really quite uncertain, and we don't know when we might need to revert into situations like current lockdown again. So I guess a lot of unpredictability and preparing for all of those scenarios. Also, as Jackie hinted, the student experience is about much more than what just happens in the classroom as well. So while online delivery and virtual environments are fantastic, it's one part of the student experience. So I guess there's a lot of that to be taken into consideration as we do that planning. And within ECIT, obviously, so the ECIT Institute, which is home to CSIT, the Cybersecurity Research Centre. So it is a research centre, so my role there is in business development and engaging industry in the research we do, engaging them in new collaboration opportunities, ultimately with the aim of commercialising research to make sure that it doesn't just get all this funding to sit on a shelf, but it's all about economic and social benefit and translation. So to that end, we're certainly continuing to keep an eye on what funding is coming along that companies can partner with us on. Just as Claire and Debbie were explaining there about Horizon 2020, fantastic opportunities, but they can be quite daunting as well if you're an SME or even larger than that and you haven't done that before. That can be fairly daunting, and our colleagues in CSIT and ECIT, it's something they're well practiced at, is leading on those bids and taking companies through and pulling consortiums together, whether that's all islands or with partners right across Europe as well. And we've led some of those before on things like post-quantum safe cryptography. So that's something. There's a new call actually coming out in August, and it's Secure Society call. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and already looking to see other areas there we should be applying for, as well as things like Innovate UK, UKRI. We're waiting actually the result of a major consortium bid we put in with the cluster last year, which is Strengthened Places, and that's all about the use of AI within cybersecurity. We're to hear about that in June. It will be a fantastic opportunity and in such a topical area, and would be highly welcomed, I think, by the whole community right now, as there is so much uncertainty right across business. Another exciting initiative we're just pioneering right now, actually, in ECIT, is around PhD training. And I think if you look at any university, you'll find that the average age of a PhD student is around 24 or 25, and that's great. But we know that there are people in industry who have that fantastic industry experience. Maybe they come through an academic route and have always thought, I'd like to do that, but I don't want to leave my job, or I couldn't take on the financial implications of full-time study. Or maybe they're looking at a way to progress. Maybe they've no academic background in the traditional sense. So we're actually pioneering a new program now called Credit, which is the Centre for Doctoral Industry Training. And we're recruiting for that, looking to start in autumn of this year and then rolling beyond that. And it's all about people in industry. There's a couple of models. I'll not take time to go into that today. But basically, they can either stay as an employee or they can move to the university as a student, which we think actually might be of interest even where staff are furloughed, perhaps, where companies do want to hold on to that expertise, but perhaps in a different way, and create new opportunities through this just challenging time as well. I have another minute from an cyber perspective.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think well, Simon, we'll definitely both agree that Gillian coming on board, the timing has been fantastic for us. We're just so delighted to be able to have that additional resource, and we've been quite envious of Cyber Ireland for a while, Jackie, with your team there being in place. So fantastic to have Gillian on board. We know that it's in some ways it's not ideal timing because she would love to be getting out to meet people face to face, but still it's there's been a great will and engagement right across our community. We've also then with our partner Carson McDowell, they have been just fantastic at just that continued support, looking at things like some of what companies are asking them about. So last year, I think most people are aware, they delivered some legal clinics right across the cluster members for those who were interested. But over the last while, they've been asked about things way beyond cyber, like rent arrears or tenancy agreements, how you get a break from that. What about the job retention scheme, or managing people working from home as well. So there's a whole range of issues that they've commented on, and they have a number of blog posts on their website, and they're working with us on some content tailored to the cyber sector. So that's been really useful, I think, right across our industry.
That's brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Judith, for that really useful précis of what's going on. And it's especially interesting about the PhD. Making sure that we're able to get the people with so much expertise back into academia, I think is absolutely brilliant. That there's still a lot to learn for all of us. No matter what age we are, we've got a lot of good things to share. So that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, Gillian, do you have any questions so far, or should we just move on to the poll straight away?
No questions in just yet. I will put the poll live.
Brilliant.
People can then answer that in their own time, and
fantastic.
You can,
so you should now be able to see the poll up on screen. We'll just leave it up there for, I don't know, let's say 30 seconds, just to see what's going on, and then we'll just move on. I warn you, Jackie, I'm going to come to you next. Okay, so I'll maybe just give everybody 2 wee seconds, and then we'll go back to Jackie. So it's just about the impact of the coronavirus and the COVID-19 issue on your business and on your future plans. So let's call it a day there, will we, Gillian? And then maybe you could share some of the results with us.
I'm going to close it now, and I'll share the results in a second.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. Great stuff. So, Jackie, I've been working in the technology industry now for over 20 years. I've seen a number of different storms being weathered. We've both probably seen companies come and go, but it strikes me that a key theme for the most successful companies I've seen is the ability to collaborate. To quote an old Persian proverb, this too shall pass. When it does, in the medium term and onwards, how can we as clusters and as an industry build relationships to enable effective collaboration?
It's a great question. Am I back? You can hear me again, can you?
We can indeed, yes, we can hear you fine.
I think collaboration between Northern Ireland and then the kind of the South kind of cluster in cybersecurity, I think we were set up very well for that to work, actually, with the trip you referred to earlier, where the US government took kind of people from both ends of the island and brought us off to the US together. And I think it made a big difference, actually, because we're all kind of acutely aware of the challenges that we're facing. And I think a lot of people who needed to get to know each other started to get to know each other and build up an element of trust. I think in relation to cybersecurity, one of the things that we're fortunate of in some ways is that there aren't enough cybersecurity specialists in the world. So I think the requirement for cybersecurity specialists isn't going to disappear. And I also think that because of that shortage, it allows people to naturally collaborate, because competition and collaboration, sometimes people will view them as being enemies. Now, I think they work hand in hand, because it's an area in cybersecurity where I think you can always be comfortable to collaborate with people, even if you feel that they're in competition with you, because there is enough out there for everybody to feel engaged and have meaningful work in the cybersecurity community. So I, for one, never feel uncomfortable collaborating with somebody, even if they potentially are my competitor at times. And I think that's something that we should always remember, because at the end of the day, at the moment, while some aspects in our island are quiet, it's a really good time for us to look and take stock of the skills we have here, what we can contribute globally, and also for people to upskill and also cross-skill into cybersecurity, because a lot of the people who are furloughed at the moment, we really should be putting a lot of effort into asking them to look and see, do they think they have the potential for a career in cybersecurity? And if so, having things on offer. Now, I know we have, I see SkillNet in Ireland, who have put forward a lot of courses at the moment that people can get onto and look and see, are they suitable for cybersecurity? Are they interested? There's a lot of webinars, a lot of information kind of going out that's free for people to access. I think this is a really good thing because it's bringing together again our academic, our industry, you know, people who may be facing challenges going into this and who ultimately should be able to help us with our skills shortage in cybersecurity. So I think now is a great time for collaboration, but I'm not sure that there was ever a problem with that. You know, I think people are very good at collaborating in the cybersecurity industry.
Absolutely, and I would agree with that. I mean, one of the things that struck me from our trip to the States a wee while ago was, you know, that how open and honest and you know that everyone on that trip was, and we were able to have conversations about, you know, stuff that we all see the same problems, and I think that's really really useful. And Jackie, thanks for that. And you know, I think the collaboration thing is absolutely key, and I think that, you know, we'll hopefully over the short, medium, long term, whatever, you know, we can all start to collaborate, you know, very much more effectively, and we'll see what happens.
I can totally assure you, Cyber Ireland really want to collaborate anyway with you, so we're really looking forward to that relationship developing further into the future.
Wonderful. Well, that's fantastic. And Jeff and Michael, with a DIT perspective, from DIT head, obviously collaboration is going to be very important. You know, we've heard that some organisations are finding different ways to succeed. I wonder if you might give us your views about how this might be, you know, about approaching the market in the right way and collaborative opportunities.
Well, the United Kingdom is a great place to build a cyber business, and particularly if you do want to collaborate. You know, one of the key attributes of the UK is the immensity of the cybersecurity sector. You know, it represents about 27% of cybersecurity spend across Europe. So it's a big, vast market compared to, say, France and Germany. And that can be tapped into, and we have formalized this in terms of the accelerator network that we have, and of course ECIT being involved in the Lorca accelerator in East London is a major feather in ECIT's cap, but also Northern Ireland's cap. And as far as DIT, and Michael can confirm this, but as far as DIT is concerned, we overtly referred to Northern Ireland being one of the most important cybersecurity clusters in the United Kingdom, and a key conduit really for foreign direct investment as well. So, and that FDI flow helps in terms of that collaboration effort and partnership effort. So we have seen FDI companies come to the UK, get incorporated, and get into the Lorca accelerator or the AI blockchain accelerator in Edinburgh, or the NCSC accelerator in Cheltenham, or the Cylon accelerator. There are 18% of the Tech Nation Growth Accelerator cohort, the most recently announced cohort, are from Northern Ireland. So there's an incredible array of accelerators which bring relatively early stage and growth stage companies into contact with VCs, with peer group companies, with potential partners, and interestingly also with organizations that are interested in investing. I recently had a meeting with Splunk that sent over their head of VC from San Francisco to London and wants to identify companies that are active in some of these accelerators with a view to investing in them and helping them to grow, and also enhancing their go-to-market offers. And I'm sure Michael can confirm this. You know, he and I, when we were in the States recently, met with an array of US companies keen to identify partner companies in the United Kingdom that they can do business with. Michael, can you elaborate?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Jeff. I would say that there are no two closer markets really than the US and the UK, and that's borne out in a lot of the conversations that I have here as well. You know, we're very much considered a trusted partner, and when it comes to things like you know, privacy legislation, compliance, you know, the US looks at us as a country that has probably got some of those bruises and has certainly learned some of those lessons. So as it seeks over time to roll out its various sort of state by state either privacy legislation here or breach legislation, you know, it is using the relationship that it has with the UK and the businesses that we have in the UK and specifically for this call in Northern Ireland to really learn some of the lessons to help them draft that legislation with an improved edge to it over GDPR. I mean, I will back up just a bit and say when you compare the US market to the UK market, it's a lot more complex. Having state-by-state legislation created a very complex market to operate in, and even actually the response to COVID-19 has been sort of very interesting to watch out here, because whilst there is federal guidance, it's very much down to states to respond individually or choose how they want to respond to the crisis. So here you have a mix of businesses that, you know, if they operate in multiple states, may be having to follow different guidance in each of those. Some have chosen to just go most restrictive. It's easier for them to have a single response and bear that out across the country. Some have taken advantage of the fact that some states have a slightly more relaxed view to what social distancing is or potentially to what stay-at-home orders are, and they're using that to their advantage as well. So the response here has been a little bit different, but mostly mirrors what you'll have seen, you know, in the UK around the way that academic institutions are working from home. So I would say, you know, the way that companies are responding here is very similar, but it does give them some additional opportunities, some additional room to maneuver. One of the biggest changes I've seen, to be honest, has been around compliance, and I can go into that in reams of detail, but just to say that I think, given that everyone was forced to work from home very abruptly, I think there's been a rethinking temporarily about compliance, and the need to do business has kind of overruled some of the privacy compliance and some of the security compliance that you would typically see enforced in companies. So I think, you know, we certainly have a wave of opportunity still to come. So while companies here are working differently, I think, you know, and I'm sure we'll go on to discuss the fact that, you know, there is definite opportunity at the back end of this. And the expectation is that this crisis isn't over, but there will certainly be a window of opportunity potentially when businesses get to go back to a pseudo state of normal, where companies can implement change, be that policy or technical, prior to us potentially carrying out social distancing again in the not too distant future. So yeah, very, very interesting picture here. Very, very similar challenges, but you know, the market hasn't stopped. It's still working. And as you may have seen yesterday, for example, Rapid7, I know they got a big presence in Northern Ireland. They indicated an intent to acquire. So, you know, business is continuing. It's just continuing in a slightly different way to what we're used to.
Yes, and yes, I noticed the Rapid7. I think it's DigiCloud, I think it's what it's called. DigiCloud, I can't remember the name of the company, but they've announced their intention. Yes, that's very interesting. And as you say, you know, there's a big base for Rapid7 in Belfast, and you know, it's really great to see. So going back to our colleagues from the Enterprise Europe Network, to Claire and Debbie, is there, we mentioned at the beginning that some companies are finding opportunities. You mentioned the website. Are there any more kind of things that you would like to say about that? You know, about the schemes that are taking place. So, for instance, I heard there was a pan-European EU versus virus hackathon recently, which I think is quite a cool thing to be taking part in. Sorry, I think we.
Hello.
Claire and Debbie, there we go. Brilliant stuff.
Oh, Debbie here now.
Hello, Debbie. Sorry about that.
Everyone keeps going in and out of, and that's why I have the camera off. Yeah, there are various opportunities. You know, Claire works on a lot of those European calls, as she spoke about earlier, Horizon 2020. there are, with regards hackathons, I mean, there and other virtual events, they are constantly being advertised. And just yesterday, I was on with a group of 40 colleagues from all over Europe, and they're in the middle of pulling together a whole list of opportunities for online events and online competitions that we will publish in the next couple of weeks. That'll be open to Northern Ireland companies as well as other colleagues in the UK. On our own database and our own website, the Enterprise Europe Network website, there are over 4,000 live opportunities on it currently, ranging from absolutely anything. And in the slides, I've done an example of, I put in cyber, and there were 21 opportunities in cyber. Some of them offering solutions, requesting solutions, looking for R&D opportunities. There's also various international clusters on there looking to collaborate. So maybe we could follow up with that going forward. But there are lots of opportunities there for companies. It's just, you know, getting the time, and hopefully this is the time for companies to follow up on them.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Judith, if I could just come back to you, you know, as a cluster, we've been trying to work out ways that NI Cyber can help provide services to collaborate with other organizations locally. One of those things that we've been putting together are these webinars. I think it's number 4 out of our pack so far. Have you been seeing anything else? And what about from a training perspective? Have you seen much of those sort of things coming through?
Yeah, I think a few things, Simon. So obviously initially we really wanted to hear from members in terms of what they needed from us, and rather than us trying to guess that ourselves, you know, from a distance. And obviously that's why our steering group is industry and really, you know, shaping the direction of the cluster. I suppose our very early days we asked, like, what are the initial implications of this, and certainly you mentioned already about the implication on cash flow and you know, invoicing being delayed, etc. We heard of companies who were trying to onboard and hire new staff and the difficulties of that. Also networking opportunities, all of those events that we do, like info security, other events in the sector, even locally, the events where it just helps you to get in front of partners and customers, completely disappeared. So, and raising cash as well has already been discussed. So I think with that backdrop, that gave us a good mindset in terms of what were the early topics we should try and provide some expertise into, and that then resulted in this webinar series, of which I think this is our third or fourth. One of the other initiatives we started actually was a directory of secure remote working, which will be going up on the website in the next couple of days. So the impetus there was to say, look, as Jackie said, so many companies are now entirely been thrown into working from home, something that would normally take months of planning, and it literally happened within a few days. So key consideration there was, well, okay, what about security? And obviously as a cybersecurity cluster, that's at the front of our minds. So a number of our companies have expertise in that area, whether it's products and services or training consultancy. So hopefully that will be a helpful guide with just highlighting the companies with expertise in that. We've also had a number of new member requests, which has been encouraging because that suggests that we're doing the right things. So I think that's a positive step. And also it shows that at a difficult time, people see the benefit of being part of something bigger than themselves as well. We've also been exploring, can we as a cluster, can we collaborate to provide perhaps some training or some kind of new product or service? When you look across, although we're still relatively small with about 40 companies involved, yet there's such a range of expertise in companies like your own, Simon, with training in healthcare and finance. There's others with expertise in the advanced manufacturing sector. And can we bring that together in an offering that perhaps one company on their own doesn't currently have, and perhaps that will be an opportunity going forward. And just finally, then the other aspect we're really keen to do more on in this time is our wider engagement. So not just bringing the leadership of cyber companies together, but those people who are maybe junior developers or working at that grassroots level, really making things happen. How can we support them? And we do have a hackathon in planning, and just picking up my last comment, a hackathon in planning for mid-May. So there's more details on that coming out in the next week or so.
Brilliant. Judith, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. So I'm very conscious that we've got about probably around about 5 minutes left before we hit the hour, and I want to try to keep to that if possible. What I'd like to do now, if I could, is just to maybe kind of consider from a roundup perspective. I mean, what I'm getting from this is that I understand that there are still some opportunities out there. There is government support. There's support from lots of different places. It's a case of finding out where those places are and reaching out to them. So we've heard about the Horizon 2020. We're going to send out the links for that. We've heard from Jeff about some of the DIT work that's going on. We've heard from Michael about the work that's keeping on going in the States, and that there are still opportunities in place. One of the things I would say is that you know, we were looking through some of this, and you know, one of the phrases that came up was no one wants to be sold to at the moment. You know, no one wants to be sold to have a direct sales call saying, you know, buy stuff, buy stuff, buy stuff. You know, that's not maybe a useful way to proceed at the moment. But what we can do is we can start to see where our organizations can help, and through collaboration we can then you know, work together and bring everybody along with us. That would be what I'm taking from this. What I'd like to do, if I may, is to just ask the panel to provide us with a thought in closing to help us reflect on where we are today and your view on what you see on the horizon for collaboration. So if I may start with maybe Jeff and Michael, that would be brilliant.
Well, I think what I'd say is that this is an unexpected opportunity for many companies to take stock, and and obviously that assumes that they've got enough cash to be able to continue, and that's quite an assumption, you know. But the thing is, the government has at least responded. It has come up with solutions that are available now. For example, I just got an email before this call from the Cabinet Office to say that you know, there is a new bounce back loan scheme which will be launched in early May, which will offer businesses between £2,000 and £50,000 money available very, very quickly, no repayments required for the first 12 months, etc., etc. There's the Innovate UK funding that I mentioned. There's the British Business Bank funding, etc. So there's that. So if the companies can extend their runway, I think this should be the opportunity that they perhaps didn't expect, but it does provide an opportunity for them to consider new product development or looking at new niches or preparing for the time when they're going to be able to sell. Now that's the kind of, I had a conversation again before this call with our head of trade in the tech team, and he was saying, well, I can't really get my mind around that. We're supposed to be focused on exports, but of course we're also focused on ensuring that those businesses that can export have something to export when we get to that time. So suffice to say that we have a bundle of offers available to those companies to extend that runway. We're in active engagement with the VC community. We're coming up with schemes that are available now. We have Innovate UK for R&D funding. So please do avail of them, and they're all available to Northern Ireland companies. But the other thing I would say is that there are opportunities right now to take part in these UK cyber-oriented incubators and accelerators. Like, for example, Lorca has an open call right now for the new cohort. I know that there is another case, G-Cloud, the latest cohort for G-Cloud. So if you want to supply services to government, there is an open call for G-Cloud 12, and it's open now and is available. There's a window until July. So that's something that companies can be getting prepared for right now. It may not provide short-term solutions, but it's something that they can be doing and getting productive and thinking about their product portfolio right now. Michael?
Yeah,
brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you, Michael.
The same, really. I think, I mean, companies should definitely be looking at this as an opportunity. I think there are a lot of businesses, healthcare specifically in the US, for example, where, you know, for the last 10 years, we've said working from home isn't practical because of the legislation, because of the security requirements. Well, here we are in a position where we're being forced to work from home, and, you know, companies are having to make that work. And what I hope is at the end of this crisis, or, you know, as it slackens, we don't just close the clamshell again and decide to return to the models that we had pre-COVID-19. My hope is that organizations both in the UK and the US will look at what they've done, look at what was successful during this time, and really consider whether there is a different security posture that they can take, whether there is, you know, software services in the market that they previously haven't considered from, you know, particularly in my instance, you know, UK sellers, so Northern Ireland companies, to say, you know, what perhaps A, we can be ready for this when it happens again, but, you know, B, some of those long held beliefs of, you know, we still have to do this in an office have been questioned, and, you know, nothing too bad happened. So, you know, I hope that we all find an opportunity to benefit from this, whether it's people benefiting personally from, you know, getting more work from home opportunity and those kinds of things, or whether organizations can actually use it to improve the way that they do business.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to ask rest of the panelists to be quite rapid. I'm really sorry, but we are running very low on time. So could I maybe ask for a view from Claire and Debbie for the question around where you see collaboration over the course of the next wee while, what you see on the horizon?
Okay, it's Debbie here. Yeah, you know, and as Jeff and Michael said, you know, those opportunities are there. I would ask everyone even to, you know, if they are looking for those opportunities, the Northern Ireland Business Info website has all of those links. We have the Innovate UK links there, Invest NI and other links. Everything is on that website. I'd also say make use of the online platforms and the virtual matchmaking opportunities. Use this time to make international connections for future collaboration. And feel free to drop me an email if you want me to make any introductions for you anywhere in Europe.
You're brilliant. Thank you so much. That's absolutely wonderful. Judith, how about yourself?
Okay, then very quickly. So I think at the minute in the media we hear so much about PPE, and rightly so, but so much more is still needed. So digital transformation, technology is still going to be at the heart of that. Whether we heard recently of one of our members who actually got a new contract about onboarding of volunteers in England for the NHS. So there are new opportunities, and normal will not go back to how it was, and digital transformation is still going to be key to the revolution of our health service, and security has to be at the very heart of that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yes, and you know, fantastic news for that company who were able to get that opportunity, but also to help do something in a better way, which is fantastic. Jackie, I'm going to leave you to give us the final words, as it were. So, what can you see? A final word. What can you see on the horizon?
Okay, and I'm going to be really brief. I would say two things, and I'm probably wearing my Accenture hat saying this. In the short to near term, kind of from a tactical perspective, I know we've made a conscious business decision that, you know, if things come to us along opportunities in this way, you know, we're not going to turn them away, but we are not seeking opportunities, you know, because people don't want it. We don't want it coming into us. You know, it just doesn't feel right in some ways. So we are absolutely, when people come to us and look for help, we will help them. So that's our kind of tactical view at the moment in relation to that. Where possible, where we've got ongoing work that was nothing to do with COVID, we are absolutely keeping that going. And then from a strategic perspective, I would be saying to people, think about where you actually want to be in 6, 12, 18 months time, and do lots of work if you've got any downtime now in order to reshape where you're at and have a think about where you want to be.
Brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Jackie. So unless there are any questions, I'm just very conscious of the time here, but unless there are any questions, I'd just like to round up by just saying that thank you very much to everybody. Thank you very much to our panelists. I really appreciate you all coming along. Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you to Gillian Colin O'Leary for pulling all of this together and getting all the panelists on board. I'd like to say thank you to our member companies for being part of the cluster, and to our sponsors, Carson McDowell, for bringing us along and for supporting us in this way. If you do have any follow-up questions, I believe Gillian's email is available, and we will send out the information that we promised. And apart from that, thank you very much, everybody, and hopefully see you again soon. Gillian, do we have another one planned as yet? I can't remember I can't remember if we have another one planned yet.
a couple of weeks maybe with we're speaking to a couple of people along the same lines as, you know, where can we find business opportunities in this area, or what how do we keep business going? But I will keep everybody posted. Brilliant,
Gillian. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having
us.
us.
Thank you very much, Steve. All the best.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Simon.